WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan complains of a double standard from the media when he gets boos on WWE television, suggesting that when The Rock or John Cena gets booed, there is a totally different reaction from people covering it. We'll let you know all the details and show you what the Hall of Famer had to say. We have the ratings for last week's edition of AEW Collision on TBS. Plans for John Cena's WWE Championship reign have possibly been revealed. Josh Alexander reveals who he hoped he was going to debut with in All Elite Wrestling TV. More details on the circumstances around new WWE superstar Jeff Cobb's New Japan Pro Wrestling exit. Shotsi, former WWE superstar, reportedly is booked from an MLW show on June 26th. Kevin Knight, his perception in All Elite Wrestling is reportedly revealed. Dr. Colin Coker's motion to dismiss a petition filed by Janelle Grant has been denied by a judge in the lawsuit against Vince McMahon. Braun Strowman, he was recently released by WWE, but he's actually going to be involved in a program produced by WWE on USA Network later this year. Several TNA stars have been confirmed for an upcoming Triple H Triple Mania show. The date for the upcoming WWE Draft has reportedly been revealed. Plus, we've got the ratings for Friday's edition of Smackdown on USA. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin, you can see right there we're currently at 21,646 subscribers. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join the ever-expanding WNU, that being the Wrestle News universe. In addition, you can become a member of the WN365 roster. You can scan the QR code when it appears on the sidebar. In addition, you can click the join button or the link in the video description. Now let's begin with comments made by WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan complaining of a double standard from the media. Now, Hogan says he doesn't care about the backlash. Hogan's presence in professional wrestling has been a topic of discussion for many years at this point, with many believing that he should largely disappear from the public eye due to fan backlash that he receives. The majority of fans are still discontent with Hogan due to his handling of a leaked sex tape in 2015 that featured racist language and comments. The conversation surrounding Hogan was reignited back in January as Hogan was booed during his appearance on the first episode of Raw on Netflix from the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, California. While speaking with El Hawani for a new interview, Hogan spoke about the fans booing him, saying that people have been trying to knock him down for decades at this point. Here's what the Hulkster had to say.
I think you're in a real interesting point in your life and career, because I think that there's a sector of people who were with you in the 80s, who rided with you, who will always ride with you and always support you. And obviously there are some fans who don't feel that same way anymore, who have turned against you, and we see you at Raw and they boo you when you come out. But then there are other fans who want to support your beer or whatever product that you're attached to. How do you feel, without beating around the bush, how do you feel about your relationship with the public right now, your relationship with the people, especially coming off the last time we saw you on a major stage was that Netflix show back in January at the Intuit Dome?
Well, they're still nipping at my heels. I can go out there and get booed. As actually the last time I was in LA, I was Hollywood Hogan with a black beard and doing the bad guy thing. I can go out there and get booed in LA, or The Rock can get booed in LA, or John Cena gets booed in LA. But when I get booed, there's a whole different reaction media-wise. For some reason, I've laid some type of groundwork that people are still interested in what I'm doing. And so for those that are on the team and are riding with the train to the station, that's great. For those that are the haters and still have a problem with me, there's nothing I can do to fix that except, just keep proving by my actions that, I'm still in the game. I'm still pushing hard. I took a lot of time off because I had like 25 surgeries and I was down for a long time. And, I've always loved the hunt. I've always loved to get back in the game, but it's always been that way with me because my whole career, I had that top spot no matter what it was. Even through the 80s, it was the fastest draw. During the 80s, it was just a situation where everybody was knocking me. Everybody was trying to knock me off that top spot. I'll trade that for not being on the bottom of the card, if you know what I'm saying, or being on the bottom of the pile of life. So for me, it's just part of the territory. I mean, it's kind of like, when you get booed and then you get 3.2 billion engagements all of a sudden, and you rock that whole world in LA with how much interaction there was on the internet. I'll take it.
Okay, so after that, you didn't view that as some sort of like indictment on the state of your career, how people feel about you? You felt like they were just booing the character?
Oh, no. All the above. All the above. There are certain people that, boo the character. There are certain WWE superstars that had an opinion and they had advice for me. But I would like to ask those same guys when I go to New York or Chicago when the people cheer, out of the rooftops, I would like to know what their advice is then and what their opinion is. So it's a double-edged sword with me. And it's always been that way. It's part of the character. It's part of, me personally. It's part of my professional life. It's part of my personal life. It's all the above. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm just like an old scarred up seal with a bunch of scars on me. And I'm really relatable to most normal people because a lot of people have been through a lot of stuff I have professionally. A lot of people have made not the same mistakes, but personally made mistakes. And I'm still relatable to so many people. If they boo me, fine. If they're on the team lead, that's great too. So not hating on anybody, brother. I'm still here. I'm still moving forward. And it's kind of like the old Rocky movie. It depends on how hard you can get hit, get back up and keep moving forward. And brother, I'm always leaning into the wind.
Now, let's talk about the ratings for AEW Collision last week. Now, last week's AEW Collision, which was preempted to Thursday night, saw an increase in overall average viewership and key demographic ratings. The May 8th, 2025 edition of Collision drew an average viewership of 382,000, which is a 12% gain from the previous week's 341,000 viewers, according to Programming Insider. This number, though, was 16% lower than the trailing 4-week average of 455,000 viewers. The NBA playoff game between the Golden State Warriors and Minnesota Timberwolves topped the viewership charts for Thursday night as an average of 4.537 million viewers tuned in for the match, while the Stanley Cup game between the Carolina Hurricanes and Washington Capitals ranked second with 1.433 million viewers. The key demographic ratings for Collision also grew, with a rating of a 0.09 compared to the 0.06 rating for the May 3rd edition of the show. While that represents a growth from the previous week, it's less than the trailing 4-week average of a 0.12. Collision, as per WrestleNomics, was 9th in the key demographic ratings for the night on cable. Now, in terms of the quarter-hour ratings, these come courtesy of WrestleNomics. Shout out to them, and be sure to subscribe to their Patreon service. You can see them on the screen right there. Collision was held at the Masonic Temple Theater in Detroit, Michigan, and was broadcast live a day after AEW Dynamite took place in the same venue. The show featured a match between Ricochet and Angelico, which the former one later attacked former WWE superstar Zach Gowen, whom he'll face this coming week. Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale renewed their feud, while the main event featured a singles match between Daniel Garcia and Dax Harwood, which ended in a quite chaotic way. This week's Collision, which will be the Beach Break special, will return to its usual Saturday time slot and will be taped in Chicago, Illinois. Now let's talk about John Cena and his WWE Championship run and possible plans WWE may have for the run and how long it's possibly scheduled to last. Following the May 10th WWE Backlash, plans for John Cena as undisputed WWE Champion going forward have been revealed. The recent Premium Live event saw Cena retain the undisputed WWE Championship against Randy Orton thanks to interference from R-Truth. John Cena now continues his retirement year as a record-breaking world champion, and details have emerged as to how long that reign could last. With Cena appearing to tease a potential face turn while smiling at thank you Cena chants after the Backlash main event, some have speculated that his title reign could be over sooner than we think. However, according to Fightful Select, Cena's title reign is now expected to run through the summer of 2025. While the report doesn't specify when the reign is likely to end, let alone to whom, WWE SummerSlam takes place on August 2nd and 3rd, with Clash in Paris taking place at the end of that month. CM Punk recently took to social media to react to John Cena retaining the championship at Backlash, teasing a potential encounter. As for R-Truth, he suffered an attack from his childhood hero in the Backlash post-show press conference. With Cena now down to 24 dates remaining on his WWE retirement tour, it was recently reported that his final match will take place in Boston, Massachusetts. As noted in that report, no specific date was given for Cena's final match, although a Saturday night's main event is set for December 13th. Saturday night's main event returns on May 24th at the Youngling Center in Tampa, Florida, with Jey Uso defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Logan Paul, already announced for the show. Now, Josh Alexander, of course, he recently became All Elite, and it looks like he's debuted in the way that he had hoped for. In April 2025, Josh Alexander made his AEW debut and has now revealed the hopes he had ahead of signing with the company. The former TNA World Champion made his debut on the April 16th episode of AEW Dynamite, siding with the Don Callis family. Josh Alexander has now revealed that joining Don Callis was the hope he had ahead of getting his start with AEW. Speaking on the Wrestling Classic, Alexander opened up about the conversation he had while waiting upon his US visa, saying, quote, "Before I started with the company, I was waiting for my visa, and I had no idea when I was going to start and what I was going to do." Alexander would go on to reveal that he had a conversation about how he envisaged his AEW debut, hoping it would involve Callis, saying, quote, "I remember I had a conversation with Scott, presumed to be Scott D'Amore, and was like, I kind of hope I get put in with Don, with the Don Callis family. I think that'd be a great way to start. When you come in on your own, like it's a little more difficult, especially in a place that has so many people like that. So getting put with someone like Don, somebody I respect, I think is immensely talented and I can learn from, that's going to make things so much easier for me." With that hope becoming a reality, Alexander would go on to praise Don Callis, saying, quote, "As much as he is an on-air manager, he's somebody I have a great deal of respect for and I've worked with in the past, so I know he's going to be able to help me do other things with the company behind the scenes." So Alexander is happy that he's part of the Don Callis family. Speaking of signings, WWE, of course, recently signed Jeff Cobb. After weeks of speculation of when and where he could potentially show up, Jeff Cobb officially arrived in WWE over the weekend. The former New Japan Pro Wrestling star debuted at the recent Backlash PLE on May 10th, but the circumstances of how Cobb left New Japan are still up for discussion. The company looked to have set up a number of matches for Cobb before announcing that he was leaving, with Dave Meltzer on a recent edition of Wrestling Observer Radio speculating why WWE pulled Cobb from dates in Japan so early. Quote, "I don't know why Cobb had to leave so early," Meltzer said. "It's fine if he left. The point is, like, he had plenty of time to drop the tag titles, plenty of time to have the match with Goto, and still he wouldn't have missed any of the WWE dates if he was debuting at Backlash. I think they didn't want him doing any jobs during his matches in Japan." Cobb and Callum Newman won the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships from Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi at Sakura Genesis on April 6th, with Cobb slated to challenge Hiroki Goto for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship a few weeks later. However, New Japan abruptly announced that he was leaving in mid-April, something that reportedly blindsided the company, with his final New Japan match taking place on April 19th against Takahashi at Korakuen Hall. Many people believe the abrupt exit was so Cobb could be involved over WrestleMania 41 weekend in some capacity, but he was nowhere to be seen on WWE TV until Backlash, where he looks to have become the newest member, or associate at least, of the Bloodline as he helped Jacob Fatu retain his United States Championship over the weekend. Now, Shotsi, she could seemingly be on her way back to MLW. Shotzi is heavily implied for the MLW show on June 26th. Shotzi is indeed confirmed for the show by Fightful Select, and Fightful have been told by MLW sources that she's expected to work a number of them in the future. They've communicated their excitement for her coming into the company, and they would like for her to have some reasonable freedom and input as to who she faces. Selena De La Renta has been working on doing an overhaul of MLW's women's divisions for a number of months. Fightful had previously reported that Joshi talent is a big part of that, and Fightful were told to expect TJPW talent on almost every show. Some high-profile talent may have just become available, in addition to having their eye on CMLL luchadors and prospects from the indies. ML sources claim that Shotzi vs Shoko Nakajima is a big match they want to build to. Shoko won the MLW World Featherweight title back in April. The reason Shotzi is able to take bookings so quickly is that her contract with WWE is expiring, as opposed to her being a standard release with a 90-day non-compete clause. Now, Fightful say they've not heard of any contract being signed just yet. Speaking of new signings, of course, AEW recently signed Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight has made a splash since signing with All Elite Wrestling, with the Jet regularly featured on AEW TV since signing with the promotion back in March. Early into his run, and Knight has already shared an AEW ring with the likes of Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, and Kazuchika Okada, and a report from Fightful Select suggests that AEW management are high on him. Knight is believed to be well liked in AEW, with the promotion having fended off interest from WWE to secure his signature. Knight also remains signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he is currently competing in the Best of the Super Juniors 32 tournament, with AEW President Tony Khan and New Japan/AEW liaison Rocky Romero meeting with Knight as a pair to solidify the AEW/New Japan relationship and seemingly convince him to sign with both promotions. a former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion. Knight's prior New Japan contract expired in early 2025, with AEW, WWE, and New Japan, amongst others, believed to have been keen on signing him. Knight ultimately chose AEW as his main promotion, making his debut on the March 29th edition of AEW Collision. Now, let's move on to the lawsuit involving Vince McMahon and former WWE employee Janelle Grant. Now, a Connecticut state court judge has denied Dr. Colin Coker's motion to dismiss a petition filed by former WWE employee Janelle Grant. The ruling allows Grant to pursue evidence from Coker and his clinic Peak Wellness, whom she says Vince McMahon directed her to get treatment at. Grant is now able to conduct discovery, seeking documents, possible communications with Vince McMahon, and possible testimony from Coker and his clinic as she considers whether to bring civil claims against those parties. Brandon Thurston of Post Wrestling notes, quote, "The case involving Grant and Coker is a state-level pre-suit bill of discovery action in the Connecticut Superior Court that's separate from Grant's federal lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis, and the ruling is separate from Coker's defamation lawsuit he recently filed in federal court against Grant's attorney Ann Callis." Coker's attorneys contended they had already provided Grant's team with electronic copies of the medical and billing records she's seeking. Coker's attorneys provided the court with copies of emails they sent to Grant's counsel when they shared the records to help support his claim. Grant's attorneys say she visited Peak Wellness more than 60 times from 2019 to 2022 at the urging of McMahon. Grant alleges that Coker and Peak Wellness prescribed her supplements and infusions that weren't identified to her. Coker has denied the claim. Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee, of course filed a lawsuit in January 2024 against Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis. The lawsuit accuses McMahon of sexual assault and sex trafficking. McMahon resigned from TKO and WWE following the lawsuit being filed. Now, this is an interesting one here regarding Braun Strowman, because a new show with Braun Strowman looks like it is indeed happening. NBC announced everything on the menu with Braun Strowman will premiere on the USA Network in the fall. This is from the NBC Upfront, courtesy of Variety. Quotes, "Everything on the menu with Braun Strowman premieres fall 2025. Everything on the menu with Braun Strowman is a new food format with a big appetite. Each episode join WWE legend Braun Strowman as he eats his way across America while on the road for WWE, ordering everything on every menu and trying down to every last bite. Everything on the menu with Braun Strowman is produced by WWE Studios and Bright North Studios. Paul Levesque, Lee Fitting, Mark Pomrico, and Ben Hauser executive produced for WWE Studios. Matthew J. Braley, Kevin Duncan, Morgan Hertzen, Pat Diamond, Sean Efron, and Azada De Leon executive produce for Bright North Studios. But interestingly, Braun Strowman was released by WWE on May 2nd, but it looks like this show is still going ahead. Now, we had reported previously that after being acquired by WWE, there was expected to have TNA superstars appear on AAA Lucha Libre shows. Now, an upcoming WWE-led AAA show in Mexico has added a number of TNA wrestling stars to its lineup on June 15th. At WrestleMania 41, it was announced that WWE had acquired the Mexican wrestling promotion AAA. With AAA Triple Mania making the first event since WWE's acquisition, Angel and Berto of Los Garza have been announced for the show. In addition to that, other names are expected to be announced. SI's The Takedown has now confirmed that TNA wrestling stars will also be at the show taking place at Arena Monterrey. 4 TNA wrestling stars were announced for the June 15th show, all of whom are current champions. TNA World Champion Joe Hendry, X Division Champion Moose, and TNA World Tag Team Champions Nick and Ryan Nemeth were all confirmed as performing on the night. In a statement issued to Sports Illustrated, AEW CEO Dorian Joaquin Roldan Penna said, quote, "We are thrilled to welcome these 4 incredible TNA stars to AAA. This collaboration represents the best of both worlds, the passion and tradition of Lucha Libre and the global momentum of TNA. Our fans are in for something truly special." Now, an update here when it comes to the WWE Draft and when we can expect it to take place. Now, it was reported in March that WWE had plans for this year's iteration of its annual post-WrestleMania draft, but the company hasn't officially announced the date just yet. With a more recent report indicating that WWE is still planning to hold a draft, a new update has emerged on when the WWE draft could take place. Per Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Radio, the draft is very likely to happen at the end of May, potentially over the weekend, which WWE is in Tampa, Florida. Alvarez noted, quote, "For whatever reason, Julia and Roxanne are still considered NXT talents. Roxanne has been a regular on the main roster since Royal Rumble. She should be petitioning for main roster back pay. She's been here so often. But I was told it's not set in stone, but very likely at the end of this month, when they're doing that series of dates in Tampa, it's very likely there might be a draft on that weekend or that week, which would probably mean that some people are being called up." WWE previously announced a Memorial Day weekend takeover of the Youngling Center, set to begin on May 24th with Saturday night's main event. NXT Battleground will take place that Sunday ahead of Raw and NXT, also emanating from the Youngling Center the following Monday and Tuesday respectively. Previous WWE drafts have kicked off on SmackDown and resumed on Raw, so if this year's draft does take place during this weekend, that would mean it'd be across the May 23rd SmackDown episode and the May 26th edition of Raw. Roxanne Perez and Julia headlined the May 12th Raw episode, losing to Rhea Ripley and Women's World Champion Io Sky. Now, finally, we have the ratings for Friday's edition of SmackDown on USA. Viewership and ratings information for the May 9th episode of SmackDown has been revealed. WrestleNomics reports that the May 9th episode of WWE Smackdown drew 1.455 million viewers on USA Network. This number is up from the 1.406 million viewers for the May 2nd episode. Now, Friday's show posted a 0.41 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic, up from the 0.37 rating last Friday. SmackDown was number 2 for the night on the cable in the 18 to 49. The Cleveland Cavaliers versus Indiana Pacers NBA playoff game on ESPN was number 1 with 3.913 million viewers and a 1.18 18 to 49 rating. So there you go, guys, the latest pro wrestling news for you. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.